everybody. I'm getting a little rambunctious here. It's been a lot of fun in the first hour. In case you've forgotten, hello and welcome. I'm Steve Clemons. I'm editor-at-large of The Hill. If you're just joining us, this is the second half of our Small Business Summit, where we're discussing the challenges facing today's small businesses, as well as opportunities for growth and innovation. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Alibaba Group, for making this afternoon's set of discussions possible. A quick reminder that you can tweet us at The Hill Events, with the hashtag The Hill Small Biz, B-I-Z. We're broadcasting live, and we'll take your questions throughout the program. And if everything goes funky for you, if the live stream goes bad, just push refresh, and I'm told it will probably help you. Here to discuss the state of small business recovery is Jessica Johnson Cope. She is chair, and I got this is a mouthful, chair of Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Voices National Leadership Council, and she's president of Johnson Security Bureau in New York City. Jessica, great to be with you. I have a lot of friends at Goldman, and so I've got to tell them, they're making like potential acronyms longer than the Pentagon has, but I know that you're one of the people active in helping to think about Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses. Give us a snapshot. If you were to aggregate what you see going on in America right now with small businesses, what's going well, what's not going well?
Well, good afternoon, Steve, and thank you for having me today. What we see amongst America's small businesses from sea to sea and ocean to ocean is that there's a desire to recover, there are hopes to recover, but the planned recovery just simply isn't there. Many businesses were able to sustain to some level as a result of PPP and other incentives from the federal government, but it's still extremely challenging, as evidenced by some of the things the earlier panelists discussed.
Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. One of the things I know that Goldman was trying to do is to look at minority-owned businesses, look at other businesses that haven't been as, I don't know what the right term is. They have not had all of the same resources that other more successful firms have had in this. And because of that, we've had bigotry built into the system. Let's just be honest. That meant that affected finance, that affected capital access, that affected contracts that they might have gotten. Where is the state of that today? To what degree do you think the small business owner that might want to get city, state contracts, might want to access capital, is still suffering from a hangover of a baked-in racism?
Well, when it comes to diverse businesses, what they say is when America catches a cold, diverse businesses catch pneumonia, especially when it comes to Black-owned businesses and to some extent to women-owned businesses. And so we don't even start at the same starting line as other firms do when it comes to resources, when it comes to opportunities. As a matter of fact, in the most recent survey data compiled by, we'll keep it short, the 10,000 Small Businesses Voices community, what we found was that overwhelmingly Black-owned businesses had less than 3 months of cash to sustain their businesses. And they found that it was much more difficult to access capital through the traditional pathways. And so it means that they're starting from a much further starting point. There is hope, though, because we see that women and minorities are starting businesses at greater rates than the general population. And so there are new businesses there, but we are asking our friends in Congress to make sure that they put sufficient weight behind making sure diverse businesses get contracting opportunities, which overwhelmingly go to large majority-owned firms. And as you mentioned, there are systemic barriers that are built into the system. And so by engaging communities like the 10,000 Small Business Voices community, we can have those conversations around what those barriers look like and then be able to create policy that will address those barriers and help to some level the playing field.
Jessica, you're in a circle of people who are sort of making it. I remember, I guess it was last year, I met these two women. They're great entrepreneurs in this local area, and they were going to be laid off, or they were going to be furloughed by the government. And they couldn't afford to be furloughed by the government, so they created a bakery called Furlough Cheesecake. The Furlough Cheesecake. And and then they got online, they found their digital space, they became clients of GoDaddy to help them do it. Now they've opened a brick and mortar place down in National Harbor. It's a very cool success story of a family business that went big during a time of stress. And the online digital element was a very big way to achieve scale and do things that these two sisters might not otherwise have done. I love telling their story. I love them when they tell their story. But I'm interested in the kind of dynamic of stress we've been through with the pandemic. And maybe any stories you've seen where people have made unusual pivots in surprising ways and found a way to be not only resilient, but to thrive.
Well, small business owners tend to be very creative. They tend to be very resilient, and they find a way to innovate. And so we have stories here from the community of business owners who were, say, in a uniform business, and they were able to pivot and go from making uniforms to making PPE and other safety measures, because safety is a focus for so many of our businesses, much more now than it was prior to January 2020. We also see where people have pivoted from having brick and mortar stores to doing more online business, especially in the food services. So wherein restaurants were forced to close in many places, they went to providing meals to those who were sick and shut in or didn't have the same level of food access. And so we've seen a tremendous amount of pivot. In one case, I have a colleague in the Florida area who makes awnings and protective coverings. And now since we've gone from being remote and inside where people are coming back into the office, they now want to make the most of their outdoor space. And so she's getting more business for her awnings than she did before the pandemic began.
Jessica, I know that you've talked to folks in the White House. In fact, as I have it, you've been part of these forums organized by the White House Office of Engagement and also other places like the New York Times, She Owns It forums and stuff. So what do you tell the White House when they reach out? What are their blind spots from your perspective that they ought to be listening to?
Well, I first like to applaud the Biden administration because I feel that based on the level of access that we've had to the SBA administrator and some of the other cabinet members, that they really do want to hear small business stories. The key is to connect the dots, that on all levels, executive level, as well as on the legislative level, they have to be having conversations with small business owners like me. For an example, everybody wants to get back to work. Everybody wants to be safe. And so the recent executive order for a vaccine mandate is a way to help us do that. The key is, how do we navigate those logistics as well as the costs, especially for small business owners? Or do we lose opportunities because we don't have the money to do the testing, or our employees opt out and decide that they don't want to work because they have to get the vaccine? So meeting us where we are, both on the executive and legislative branch, so that the policies really line up with what our needs are. And so often we haven't had those conversations. So I'm grateful to this administration that they are having those conversations, as evidenced by some of the participation of people that you've had on today's summit.
No, it's been really great. And I often feel like, you have a choice, right? You have a choice in these sort of forums. They bring people in who pivoted, maybe they're struggled, maybe they came out well. We're not bringing in the failed business owners. Maybe we should, to get kind of a full 360-degree discussion, say, hey, what got in the way? What ended up being too heavy in the process to do this? Because that's also part of the story. But I'm just interested, I know the folks at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I know folks in the Urban League. I know folks in the arena. What can we do better than we're doing to elevate these stories that can be replicable, maybe along the lines of what you're doing with 10,000 small businesses? Do you think there's some missing piece? Because I find these shows good for show and tell, and then you hope that a lot of people see and watch them and that they can learn from that. But I'd be interested in your perspective.
Well, I think there are a lot of success stories. The thing is, like you said, you have to know where to find them. So if I go into my Instagram community, I can see lots of small business owners from across New York City and from across all over the country that are doing things that are hustles, right? They are hustling. And sometimes they don't have the same credibility as a long-term established business might have, as a federal contractor might have. And so I would say, look in the places you haven't traditionally looked. Social media is a great outlet to see some of these success stories: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And I know that those organizations and those platforms have really reached out to try to help small business owners and diverse business owners amplify their voices. So I would just challenge the folks who are making policy to meet the social media platforms, go to the social media platforms and hear some of these success stories, and then find a balance between what's working and what's not working, and let's support it with policy that will make sure that we have more successes than we have failures.
So you just blew me away. So I never thought of Instagram as a place where folks were learning from each other and seeing where they're going to go on and, kind of have their stuff. So I'm going to go follow you right away. I have an Instagram account. Probably use it less well than you do, but I'm going to go. That's very, very interesting. Look, I also just want to say, as we're kind of getting at the end of this, if you were to sort of look at the broad side of say the 10,000 plus voices you have in small business, in terms of giving someone advice, on I think what's often is, how they can get resources to help deal with the government, how, to get mentors, look at employment systems, whether bringing on apprentices or others that could kind of come in. Is there any insights that Goldman Sachs and its group has to kind of deal with those sort of, where the rubber meets the road problems that new entrepreneurs often sometimes don't have those skill sets ready-made?
Well, this is not a commercial, but I have been affiliated with the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program since 2010. I was a graduate of the inaugural cohort at LaGuardia Community College here in New York City. And so it's not just for new business owners, it's also for established business owners. It's for business owners who are trying to figure out what's the key to growth, especially if they're in a high potential industry, a high potential area. I say go to the program and see what's available. The program helps you to learn about access to capital, and they have partners who are CDFIs that can help bring the business the monies that they need. There are also relationships with the community colleges, so you can get plugged in with your local community. And they've recently launched 10,000 Small Businesses Fellows, which pairs the community college students who are looking for job opportunities, who are looking to build their skills with our alumni population, which are feeling the challenges of the workforce and finding skilled labor. And so we're able to bring in the students to our businesses, help them to grow with the skills that we offer, and position them for growth, as well as position our businesses for growth. And in addition to that, Goldman Sachs has tremendous resources when it comes to plugging in to local and federal government through 10,000 Small Business Voices. So my first plug would be, if you're not already an alum, please join the 10,000 Small Businesses program if you're a small business owner and you're looking to grow. And then feel free to connect with anyone within the network so you can take advantage of those resources. I think Goldman just committed another significant investment towards getting 10,000 additional businesses through the program. And so don't miss the opportunity so that you can get the successes we've been talking about today.
That's very cool. Hey, Jessica, you folks put out under 10,000 Small Business Voices a survey result, and it dealt with, very interesting, it said the headlines, amid rising Delta variant, small businesses are ringing the alarm on pandemic recovery, and that they're very concerned with where things are going. They're very concerned where the government is going. But can you lay out what the concerns of your colleagues are in this study?
The top three concerns that we keep hearing are access to capital. And the administration just released information on improvements to the EIDL program, as well as increased financing opportunities through CDFIs. So that will address some of the issues, but overall, it's still hard for small businesses like mine to access capital. Another area of concern is childcare, because what we've seen is a lot of women are leaving not only the workplace, but also shutting down their businesses because they can't find affordable and effective childcare. Now that schools are back open, that helps a little bit. But the Delta variant has created a large amount of uncertainty regarding how long schools will stay open and how long children will be safe. And so we need some support to have affordable as well as accessible childcare to parents who are working as well as parents who are business owners. Additionally, safety. Again, the vaccine mandate is very helpful, but then how do we keep our employees safe? And then how do we make sure they return home to their families safely? Those are some of the biggest concerns that we're hearing. Lastly, staffing challenges. As an example, it's hard for us to recruit and retain the people who we need to run our businesses. Even as small businesses, we may need fewer people, but we need good people. One example is my friend Brent Reeve, who has Smoky John's Barbecue in Dallas, Texas. Now, there's no food like the food in Dallas, and barbecue is king. Brent is at 1/3 of the capacity of people he needs to staff the State Fair of Texas, which brings him close to 30% of his annual revenues. And it's it's not something that he can put a robot in place to take the place of. And so Brent's story is similar to what I'm hearing across the country, that small business owners are having a hard time recruiting, retaining, and keeping and training employees to take advantage of the recovery opportunities. And so, if we can address those four major issues, we're likely to see a more solid, level playing field as small businesses try to recover through the pandemic.
Well, Jessica Johnson Cope, I would love to keep talking to you. I've got Senator Cardin waiting. Otherwise, I would keep talking to you. You're very, very cool. Jessica Johnson Cope is chair of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Voices National Leadership Council. She's also president of Johnson Security Bureau. She also knows Dallas barbecue really well. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.